expected on Tuesday. At one point, he suggested President Obama could make changes without approval from Congress by using an executive order. Let's bring in Christian Whiton. He is a former State Department senior advisor, a principal with D.C. International Advisory, who wrote a column on this very subject in the Daily Caller a couple of days ago. Good to see you, Christian. You argue in your column that when lawmakers consider tinkering with gun rights, they really need to bear in mind that it was the original intent of the Founding Fathers to confer a political right in the Second Amendment. Explain what you mean.
Right, Greg. I hope in the kabuki theater that's going on right now in the Vice President's office, it's not lost. You know, the Second Amendment, which guarantees a right to keep and bear arms to individuals, it's not about hunting, it's not about recreation, it's not even about self-defense against criminals. It's meant as a final firewall against tyranny. You know, in a orderly democracy, generally the ballot box combined with freedom of the press, freedom of the speech guarantee the continuation of liberty. But our founders, with their own experience with tyranny, wanted that additional firewall, and this is something that's been validated by subsequent dictators like Hitler, like Stalin, like Mao, who, as sort of Act One of their tyranny, banned guns or restricted guns heavily. We're not anywhere near that in America now, but, you know, before we start down this slippery slope, we might want to think twice.
Sure, but look, if guns are, as you say, a firewall of last resort in a democracy, do these limitations on, say, assault weapons or new rules on background checks somehow diminish that firewall? I mean, those limits would still allow, would they not, the vast majority of gun ownership and gun sales to remain intact?
Right. Well, these are things that sound to many Americans to be reasonable on their face. After all, you could say, who needs a magazine that could hold more than 10 rounds? There are just a couple of problems, though. We know these assault weapons bans don't work. We had one at the federal level. We have one here in California at the state level, and they have no correlation to any reduction in crime. And then there's the slippery. And so the problem is, when they don't work, the politicians will come back next and they'll want all rifles and all handguns, and it really starts us down this never-ending slope where our rights start to erode.
Yeah, the Department of Justice, the Institute of Justice, the CDC, and the National Research Council all studied that 10-year federal ban, and they all reached the same conclusion. It didn't have any impact on reducing these kinds of crimes. Look, you write this, and we'll put it up on the screen. Criminals and dangerous lunatics, the very people progressives have turned loose in every major American city since the 1960s, can always ignore laws and obtain the means of destruction. Only the law-abiding observe the gun laws. Isn't it true, Christian, that some of the most crime-infested cities in America actually have the most restricted gun laws, and yet they struggle with rampant crime, which would tend to belie the argument for greater gun control?
That's right. You know, if you look at the president's hometown, adopted hometown of Chicago, they have very tough gun regulations, and that's currently the murder capital of America if you look just at big cities. I was personally mugged in Washington, D.C., which had a complete handgun ban at the time. The two gentlemen who mugged me didn't seem to be too concerned about that law. And if we ban these large-capacity magazines, for example, they could always just be smuggled back into the United States, for example, on the inside of bales of marijuana. You know, these things, unfortunately, just don't work. You know, I described what the vice president up to as kabuki theater. Some of the things that could actually work, like getting a handle on mental illness and on the violently ill, things that are currently precluded by privacy law, or looking at the coarsening of our society by what Hollywood is up to, that's off the table. It's only being looked at really as gun control.
Can an argument be made that it has the reverse effect? Gun control tends to disarm the victims and embolden criminals.
I think that's exactly right. And, you know, going back to examples in Chicago or Washington, D.C., or New York City, for example, criminals can be very confident that the victims they are facing are going to be disarmed. That's not true in places like Texas and Florida. In fact, an increasing number of states have liberalized the concealed carrying of weapons. Obviously, criminals don't bother to get these permits, take the training classes, pay the fee, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, progressives predicted bloodbaths in Texas and Florida. When they liberalized their laws, the opposite happened. Crime actually came down.
All right. Christian Whiton, you can check it out on the Daily Caller. Pretty good column. Thanks so much for sharing it with us.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay. James? Well,